Hallo liebe Leser von Münzen Online. Für unser erstes YouTube-Video haben wir uns etwas ganz Besonderes überlegt. Wir sind hier in New York, in den Vereinigten Staaten von Amerika und haben uns vor ein paar Tagen mit einem Kollegen getroffen, mit Jeff Starck. Er ist stellvertretender Chefredakteur der Zeitschrift Coin World, der größten Münzzeitschrift in den USA. Und wir haben mit ihm über den Münzensammlermarkt hier in den Vereinigten Staaten gesprochen und auch über seinen Blick nach Europa, denn er ist leidenschaftlicher Sammler, insbesondere von europäischen Münzen. Und ich wünsche Ihnen viel Spaß mit unserem Interview mit Jeff Starck und mit dem ersten Video auf YouTube von Münzen Online.
Well, the hobby is definitely going through challenges as many collectors age out. But the beautiful thing about the hobby is the seeds that have been planted a few decades ago in the 70s and 80s are now coming to harvest, because the American Numismatic Association does a summer seminar, and they get a lot of students from all over, especially young students. They do scholarships. And we know the life cycle of the collector is to get interested young, to set the hobby aside when, maybe going to college, pursuing careers and families. But then as free time becomes available, as extra money becomes available, they return to the hobby, in their 40s and their 50s. And so we're seeing a lot of those folks coming into the hobby that maybe were interested several decades ago but didn't have the means to and didn't have the time to pursue it. And the other thing is, there's been a lot of life breathed into the hobby thanks to modern mint material, especially in the way of bullion, that can be sort of a bridge, or as I like to cheekily refer to it, a gateway drug, because you can get somebody who's interested in the precious metal side of thing, show them the artistic side, talk about low mintages, and then use that as sort of the way to pull them into some of the other great classic series. So the hobby's definitely undergoing some challenges, but I think there are a lot of positives. And certainly there's a lot of business being transacted online that, we may not see it in coin show traffic, but there's definitely some strong interest out there. Well, you want to talk about collecting in the USA, you can't escape the value of slabbing, encapsulating pieces. We've seen over the last 10 years how important that has become as folks build registry sets and try to compete for the best collection in their series, in their type. And so, I know that Europeans especially look down upon slabbing and talk about coin coffins and some of these things, but in the US it is very important. And it's also not just for the US coin, but I think about the ancient coin market that NGC has been involved in slabbing coins now for some time, and that gives a lot of assurance to folks who really are excited and interested about the hobby, but maybe have not been exposed to the wonders of it at a deeper level. And so they have the confidence, seeing an item in a slab, to go buy it. It does, the marketers of modern mint material also use the slab as a guarantee or a measure of assurance that what they're getting is MS69 or Proof 69 or 70, and so that market is it's really grown, and that's probably one of the most important factors that I can think of in recent years, outside of the mint's special enhanced uncirculated set that had a fireball sale, and then after it sold out, then sales started coming back in. That was just here in the last few months. Some of the mint hits and misses, set those aside because those don't really speak to a trend. Definitely slabbing, definitely, absolutely. That's the one thing that I think says it all for the U.S. market in the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. Well, you can't, as I just said, slabbing is the tremendous difference between America and Europe as far as collecting goes. Having been fortunate to attend, I don't know, 10 World Money Fairs in Berlin and a Coinex in London, that is the one thing that stands out, that you go to these shows and you see coins raw, you see coins just out in trays. They're not, it's still very much a traditional and an academic pursuit in Europe, whereas there's still a very important place for that in the US, but it's definitely more market-driven, more value-driven, and having the items in slabs is a way to ensure that the buyer is has a sort of floor to their experience that supports that. Hey, I always have, I'm guaranteed that it's this grade. And the advent of Certified Acceptance Corporation and the green sticker and the gold sticker as items that are strong for the grade, that certainly has created its own market. So, slabbing is the obvious difference. The more, again, academic or traditional approach in Europe is something, frankly, that it's exciting, because you have real collectors. Now, that's not to say we don't have real collectors in the US, but we definitely have folks who are coming in from a more investment angle. And I think that as long as we can continue to bring those people in that way, and then speak to the other things the things that excite me, whether that's the art, the history behind the piece, the stories of politics and economics that we can tell, whether that's a king who debased the coin, whether that's changing rulers and different issuers for the same region. There are many touchstones to the hobby as far as ways we can get people excited. And as long as we get that influx from the one angle, we can continue to try to do our best to speak to the other things that make it exciting. And so it's great that we have people coming in that way, and I am delighted that we have collectors searching in that manner, and welcome them, and glad to have them in the hobby. Well, I've sort of dubbed myself World Coin Guy on Twitter and elsewhere, because, I've always been, people say, oh, that's the World Coin Guy at Coin World. And so it seemed to fit. I love the hobby, as I've shared, all the points of interest from art and history and politics, economics, geography, all that. And so to sort of narrow that down into what do I collect is very hard. I mean, some of my favorite pieces are some of the U.S. mint struck silver coins during World War II. That makes a nice, fun story. The Filipino series that the U.S. Mint did is that's U.S. related, but it's definitely world related. There are some great classical crown coins. One of my favorite designs is Latvia's Folk Maiden. I think it was a 5 lots coin in between the war. And so I don't limit myself as far as, I'm only going to collect crown size coins from this period to this period. Have some shipwreck pieces. One of my favorites is the Lima shilling from Great Britain. Among that series, that was struck by captured metal during one of the many skirmishes or wars in the 1700s. So in a U.S.-centered arena, I do focus specifically on Ohio and Missouri tokens and medals, and I have been fortunate to find a few pieces for a journalism and writing thematic approach. Otherwise, I love the American sport of baseball, so I have a lot of pieces that relate to that theme. But the general world collection is not I'm more of an accumulator in the sense that if I see something and it looks pretty and it has a story, then I will get it. Lots of ancient coins. There's many affordable ancient coins one can get, and so I picked up a number of those just because, if I'm talking to my friend and say, hey, here's a 2,000-year-old coin or 1,700-year-old coin, and you can get it for $20, and this is the bad guy who issued it, and here's his face on there, and that's a way to connect with people that might look at the hobby as more nerdy, more stuffy, more they don't recognize the many wonderful qualities of the hobby, and it's a way to connect with them on a level that they can understand and in that way appreciate. Well, I think anyone who knows the story of America knows how important Europeans are in the backstory, because so many Europeans left Europe to come to America. And so, when I think about reasons to collect and get people to collect, if I have somebody in my heritage who is British, then right there I can use that as the connection point of, hey, why don't you collect British coins, and set aside the fact that there's a fascinating hobby with history with the monarchs and all the different houses and the battles and who killed whom and all that. Just the fact that this is in a sense my homeland, and from where I come from, is a way to connect. And I think a lot of folks in the U.S. who do collect world coins, that is one way they get into collecting. Others, of course, might look at the crown-size coins that were cataloged by Davenport, and there's so many of those that are Germanic in nature. We know the German coins, probably because there's so many places in America that were settled by Germans. There's a strong interest in German coins, and so, and then I think about some of the classical Italian coins of the 19-teens and 20s and 30s. Anybody who's looking for rarity and beauty, that's a place I would start among European coins. And so European coins continue to be important, and I think will remain important because of those connection points, because of the story, the relation between the U.S. and Europe. And as long as people travel to Europe and back, and really have that appreciation for the place where they're from, or the old history, ancient Rome. There's so much cool stuff to talk about in that regard. Well, I think European collectors may be, I sort of envy European collectors, or for that matter, Europeans, because you're depending on where you are in Europe, you're really primed to travel from place to place. You're also exposed to a number of great coin series, and you don't have to really. You have to hunt, sure, but it's not as hard as, say, somebody here in the U.S. who's trying to find, a modern Belgian commemorative pre-Euro. That's a little harder to find. The U.S. coin designs in recent years have been a little mixed. The state quarter program was great to get folks involved and interested in the hobby. Some of the designs are maybe not as conducive to collecting, but we have such a rich history of coins that are. I mean, I think about the Morgan dollar is something that, as a world coin collector, that's one that everyone should have, just because of what it represents, its size, it's part of the American story. Many of these were struck at Western mints as the nation went westward and settled and cleared land and took over. And there are some modern pieces that are really neat. Any European who comes to the U.S. and visits the Statue of Liberty should consider the Statue of Liberty series from 1986. And there's just so many ways to connect with that. Of course, you know, the Silver American Eagle is the world's best-selling bullion coin. So if you collect bullion, you have to have some of those. There are some other pieces of, probably one of the unsung products of the U.S. Mint is its bronze medal series. They are congressionally mandated to strike several medals every year, and as part of that, the Mint sells bronze duplicates. And some of these have honored folks that have made a worldwide impact. So I think about the Dalai Lama is on a U.S. Mint medal, Nelson Mandela is on a U.S. Mint medal, certainly, you know, all the presidents are, but I think those two are probably the names that most Europeans would recognize, connect with, and there's some fantastic designs as well on some of them, some golfers, and so that's just one of the things that maybe I think that any collector around the world, U.S. or otherwise, might be intrigued by.
Ich hoffe, dass Ihnen das Interview mit Jeff Starck gefallen hat, unser erstes YouTube-Video. Es werden bald neue kommen und ich freue mich darauf, Sie bald wiederzusehen, hier bei YouTube und Münzen online.
Thank you so much for having me here today to talk coins. I love coins and love reaching folks that connect with coins as well, and I can't wait to, you know, meet up again at the next World Money Fair, and maybe have you at the ANA World's Fair of Money, little different title, next year in Philadelphia. And Coin World will, on behalf of Coin World, we will continue to write about the world of coins, and I am privileged to be involved in that, and thank you again for meeting me today.